Oh, bringing it back to the table here. Gonna gavel this meeting without making a loud bang in anyone who's listening on their earphones today. I am Josh, convening another meeting of the Steam, gentlemen. Want to give a shout out to Starchild. How you feeling this morning?
Every bit of beautiful. I'm doing all right, man.
All right, absolutely. You feel every bit of that beautiful. I can see you here. You look every bit of that beautiful today.
That's
RaShaun,
but thank you.
RaShaun, the Three of Clubs. How you doing today?
Doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I am Josh. I have yet to be bestowed with a nickname or give myself a nickname. I don't know how this works. It's a little strange. Just like
whatever feels right, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
The last name is Fink.
There is that. Which usually gave the nicknames. When I was in school, easy enough, right? People still remembered that as an insult. Nowadays, it's like 50-50. It's amazing. Yeah. But I get a lot of comments online, of course, but yeah, we'll keep an eye out for that. See if there's
unless you watch old mobster movies, you're probably gonna miss it.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about Jimmy Cagney last week, but you dirty rat.
Lousy Fink.
Yes, there was always that. Dead Poets Society. He's finking, and he's a fink. He's in there finking on us. I was like, oh, thanks a lot, man.
My captain.
keeping that old chestnut alive. But we are here again, having our usual discussions of pop culture and maybe trying to see if we can weave it into the current zeitgeist and the body politic. But we're coming to the end of February here. For those of you who have listened to the last couple of episodes, we haven't always made comment on the weather outside, or the fact that we're still, of course, in the middle of a pandemic and have to have these meetings remotely to be safe. Though, more vaccines every day. Let's keep our fingers crossed, and try and see if maybe we can get an in-face meeting by the end of this year. But it is getting on March Madness time, so everybody wants to start making their brackets. Everybody wants to start making lists, and we are, of course, no exception. But we wanted to take a moment to try and see if we can turn the traditional list somewhat on its head and move to instead of the top fives, we want to start with some bottom fives, the people that we don't want on our team, the people who we don't want to bring in to the party for one reason or another. Because everybody has their list of top five superheroes, top five villains, and the people who got stuff done. But what are the ones that really don't hold up when it comes to holding the test of time? And what can that tell us about where we're in our situation, in our current situation right now? Because I think the sad but true fact is these villains that don't really hold up and the ones you don't want around are probably more realistic in some ways.
Yeah.
They're certainly more fallible, and you certainly get, I find, we live in the age of the conspiracy theory, and my personal conspiracy theory is that incompetence trumps conspiracy about 99% of the time.
Fair.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it, a lot of the times we want to find this nefarious thing. We want to find these people in charge in this grand plan, and most of them are just putting it together like the rest of us. They might just be doing it with more money and on a somewhat more of a grander scale at a world stage. But do they really know more of what they're doing, and do they have any more control over their situation than anybody else? So, actually, Starchild, I wanted to turn it over to you. Let's hear your top one. I want to hear like the player you wanted on your team least to start with.
I'm gonna start it off with Han from Enter the Dragon.
You son of a bitch!
Oh,
come on!
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Okay.
If you think about it, other than his claw, what did he really do? Like, what did he do? Like, really? I mean, other than his mirrors and the claw, what the fuck? What did he really do? Right?
Show our audience, and no one can ever know if this is true or not, but what was on my list at one point.
Oh, is it?
I'm glad I took it off.
That's why we're all friends. That's why I'm upset. You took one of my picks.
Yeah.
Okay, but it does make sense, and completely for that reason, right?
Yeah, he fucking sucked.
Well, but he had the cool island, right?
He had the cool island. Don't get me wrong, his shit was cool. He had the coolest henchmen at the time. Yeah. He had the cool island at the time, and he was definitely sinister as shit. But that being said, what the fuck did he do?
Well,
right? I mean, toe to toe, he would be demolished by shit. Who was the white guy in it? Forgot
oh
who's the rich
God,
white
oh I know.
guy.
Oh, I'll go to you go. I'll go to IMDb. Yeah,
Yeah.
keep going on that. But yeah.
All right. So that he was definitely my least impressive. Like I'm trying to do the movies first, I figured.
Yeah, that does make some sense.
Yeah.
It's John Saxon who plays Roper, and he gets second billing in this, right?
Yeah,
and he's the one who probably had the longest acting career out of all of these guys for sure. He was the one
yeah, because Bruce Lee died.
Yep.
Yeah, probably the longest, most successful.
See, well, he was a character actor too. He was the type, he was definitely the one who sticks out in the whole thing beyond just being the white guy. Which let's be honest. I mean, doesn't it make you stick out a little bit anyway? Always just a little bit, But he would play the most different type of roles. I mean, I give Han this that he's got that cool and that cachet, and he's a really good bad guy until he gets into a fight, right?
Right.
I mean, think about how cool his whole setup was. I mean, he's just doling out, let's say Jim Kelly takes like what, 3 girls? He brings to his room. He's like, sorry if I offended. Sorry if I, not enough of me to go around, ladies. Right.
Gonna do.
But he's the guy whose house you want to party at.
Absolutely. So but what you mean? You don't need 3 women for your dick?
But the thing is, you don't want to hang out with him after the party. He's the rich kid who you're only going there because you're going there for his house.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but I remember if you didn't get that boat off, you ain't leaving. So it doesn't matter if you want to stay after the party or not. That's why hanging out there ain't exactly all that cool. You might get 30 women, but that's the last day of your life.
Well, of course, and that that's the end of it. But Han's like the shark in Jaws. You lose something the minute he has to actually be seen and do something. As you say, that fight scene between him and Bruce Lee is ridiculous.
Oh, cross Jaws off.
Well, my father always made a good point to me. The Jaws, it's really, the shark in it is scarier right up until you see the shark. That's when it loses something in that movie, because you can totally see the Jaws, and there's something completely to it. And it was kind of the thing with Han too, that he's sitting there and he looks all sinister, and he's got all that, and he's got the one hand and whatever. But then the actual fight scene, when you look at all the other fight scenes that happened, you had Dan Inosanto who would choreograph that stuff and taught Lee the nunchucks and the eskrima sticks, and he's just Jackie Chan is in there as an extra, as one of the fighting extras before his career really started, and everybody's really athletic and really kicking ass, and right, you get all this fight scene, and then he just jumps up in the air and slashes. Worst level boss ever.
Seriously.
Well, let me, I don't know if I can jump off of that thoroughly, but I'm going to take mine back over for my number one entry on the bottom 5 here. I'm going with the Penguin in Batman.
That's fine.
I just
Burgess
feel
Meredith, huh?
Well, I mean, you can go Burgess Meredith, that's the 60s and 70s, so that's where we're going. Now, unfortunately, the character goes back a lot further, but just the character in and of itself was like, you didn't really think this through. Like, I know he looks a little funny, and they've given him flippers for hands in Batman Returns, right? Danny DeVito. Probably my favorite, if you're going to make me pick a favorite Penguin performance, it's going to be Danny DeVito, honestly. Just because he's so scuzzy. And when he's flirting with Michelle Pfeiffer, it's just like so creepy.
Uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable, right?
Very uncomfortable.
Just like it's just a lot of those moments, right? And even his clothes are all nasty. But other than that, like even in that movie, it was like, what the hell do you do? I know you're supposed to be a criminal underboss, but of what precisely? Of robotic penguin gear? It just,
and some serious umbrellas.
And some serious umbrellas. I know.
Serious umbrellas.
Which is why, and we were talking off camera here a little before, but which is why, like, I've never seen a way they could bring him into the Nolan verse, right? This idea of being somewhat grounded in reality.
Wait, why not? They brought Bane in.
Yeah, but Bane just feels more sinister. Like, I don't know. How do you make the Penguin feel sinister and threatening? That's part of my problem with it.
Here's the thing.
We're talking about a series that's based off of a rich guy who's walking around with a freaking wetsuit that has pointy ears. I mean,
if you can have Bane, because I'm not a fan of that last Batman Christopher Nolan movie. But if you can have Bane with no superpowers, you can just have Penguin be played by Peter Dinklage. I just wrote this movie.
Oh, there we go.
Dinklage.
Well, did either of you guys get into the
series? You just saw him as a Russian gangster. The Penguin is just a short Gotham gangster. You just have the Penguin just go through behaving like a gangster, and you don't need the flippers. He just has to be an obnoxious little pervert.
Well, or in Gotham, the series, they went a different direction, and frankly, I thought it was a fairly clever way of going.
That's right, yeah.
All right. That's always been my biggest problem is, like, I felt like they just never wrote him well enough, right? And just the idea of going around the gimmick, it was a little bit like the Bond scenes where they had to sort of, like, they had the gimmick and then they had to write their way backwards out of it. I just never felt the threatening from him.
Well, that was the thing, because the problem with especially that Nolan movie is, if you're going to ground things that much, then get rid of the costumes. Like, it's a little bit ridiculous now. Like, really, for comic book movies, you really have to walk a fine line of camp. And you can't bring the camp down too much, because then you basically just have an action movie. But you can't bring it up too high, because now you have, like, 1980s Fantastic Four. Like, it's just not, no one's going to be happy. But with the Penguin, that era of the Penguin, it didn't make anybody happy.
No,
I'll be honest with you. Only time it made people happy was in the 60s, the Adam West show. Because
Burgess Meredith. Okay,
yeah, you can fucking get away with anything in that show.
Clearly.
Well, yeah.
But isn't that the whole point of the Batman show and why it was successful to us, even though not commercially successful during its run? But isn't that the mistake every movie makes about comics, is that we forget that it's about a comic. It's already campy. So to go away from that, you really kind of...
You got to walk a fine line.
Yeah.
Well, you do, but how much... I think the fine line is how much exact representation from the comic material do you want to do? For example, if we go to the X-Men movies, some of us were upset that Wolverine didn't walk out in a bright yellow suit. Other people were like,
I wasn't one of those people.
Oh, right. But you have to understand, I think we all would agree there are plenty of people who felt that way, and other people were like, well, actually, I'm kind of cool with this muted approach to things. It's a little bit more modern. So really, to me, I'm with you, but the fine line is how much actual representation from the pages where it's supposed to be bright, it's supposed to be campy, it's supposed to be at least the origins of a lot of these stories. If they're going to go to that, then the fine line is how much you really want to represent the source material.
But to Josh's point for picking the Penguin in the first place, yeah, he's always been one of the more awkward bad guys. Like, even in the serious Batman comics, like, you still have a problem taking him seriously or being scared of him. They tried really fucking hard in the Batman video games to try to make him, he has this, like, deep Cockney accent. Just waddles around. He's supposed to be this kind of British gangster, and it doesn't work.
It was Tom Hardy playing the Penguin again, right? I know he played, but yeah, Bronson's take on combine the real life man of Bronson in the British prison system. Who've never heard of him, kids, look him up. My lord.